Across the Midwest, thousands of people took the time to prep for a potential earthquake, part of what's called the Great Shakeout. Many taking part in drills simulating what to do if an earthquake strikes. It's a worthwhile drill because federal experts warn a magnitude 6 earthquake or higher could happen in our area in the next 50 years. New Madrid, Missouri is home to the New Madrid fault line. A massive earthquake hasn't happened there in quite some time. But the question, what would an earthquake on that fault line do to our bridges, stores, and infrastructure is important to think about. Avery Martinez takes a deep dive on the dangers right in our backyard.
Imagine it's 1812 and you're a settler in this town, New Madrid, Missouri. And for weeks you felt shakes in the ground. And then one night, a giant quake. The ground is ripping apart. The Mississippi is running backwards. And over your head as you look up, you see an 80-foot wall of water just washing towards you, washing away buildings as they collapse around you. Now, you got to remember, this was almost 200 years ago, before things like steel that you see behind me become normal parts of building. So the question today becomes, how would this fare against that? And how do you prepare for that, both in the air and on the ground?
The 1812 quake was roughly 8 magnitude on the 10-point Richter scale. While it's difficult to predict where it might happen, officials are constantly prepping for when it does, like these drills at a mall, as there's a 25 to 40% chance of a magnitude 6 quake in the next 50 years.
So we're simulating a collapse of the mall with search and rescue.
It's just one of many drills this year.
And we were looking through rubble, smashed delivery trucks, try and locate somebody or a sign of life.
Emergency planning is focused on saving lives instead of preventing the inevitable.
This is reality. So those older buildings, the different types of construction over the period of years.
Hundreds of minor earthquakes have struck along the fault this year, but experts say there's only a 10% chance of a major quake right now. A FEMA report found if the 1812 quake hit today, the damage could exceed $200 billion. USGS estimates nationwide $14 billion of structure damage and loss are due to earthquakes each year. When the 1812 quake hit, the Midwest was rural and open. 200 years later, not so much. St. Louis area first responders train constantly. Seismologists believe real concerns come after the shaking.
Then you got to start worrying, well, will the pipes break? Well, for how long will we not have electricity?
While the Midwest hasn't had a major quake recently, preparation is key.
When you look at the St. Louis area, especially on the New Madrid seismic fault, one could argue that we're due for one of those.
Impacts to rivers, bridges, and trains are major concerns. That's why it's crucial to understand earthquakes to better build and prepare. St. Louis University has studied them for over a century, a program created to track the New Madrid fault.
Why did we have the earthquakes? What was the nature of the earthquake? Where's the fault?
Scientists estimate chance.
We don't know when they're going to happen, and it's not because of a lack of trying.
Buildings on soft soil near rivers are more likely to collapse. Seismologists study data so that
if a disaster occurs, that there will be a response to help the people that are affected, and it will be done quickly.
Nationwide, over 500 USGS computer monitoring stations are constantly watching. Pablo is a survivor of a Chilean quake.
And I was on a 7th floor, and I remember, okay, this is very scary. Well, one way to defeat fear is to understand it.
And the only way to imagine the future is to look at the past. Look at the impact of the 1812 quakes in these photos, taken 90 years later. I spoke to the New Madrid Historical Museum, who collects research on the fault and the people surviving the 1812 quake.
A woman named Eliza Bryant. She wrote an account about the earthquakes and the fear.
When I went outside, people were screaming, running to and fro.
The world exploded around it.
Wrecked boats covered the river.
Welcome to the Mississippi River.
It's prudent to be worried about them, not necessarily afraid of the possibility of them, but to take prudent steps to prepare for something in the future.
Adapting to danger, many states have response plans for commerce, economics, and transportation.
You have to worry about, are the road structures down there, the bridges safe? So you can create a nice scenario for training. A lot of it is related to life safety.
So if you're preparing for an earthquake, what do?
Just get away from anything that breaks like glass.
Train experts.
It's a tough day at work for everybody here.
And live.
Be aware that it can happen, but don't live your life as if it's going to happen every day.
And all the experts I spoke with told me one thing. This isn't a question of if, but when. And when it does happen, all we can try to do is prepare. For First Alert 4, I'm Avery Martinez.